Kindness. How does being kind help create healthy habits? Kindness is not just fluff. Did you hear me? It really isn't fluff. It's a cornerstone to making change happen. In fact, I would call it a game changer to help you eat, move, and live better. Today, you're going to learn how being kind to yourself can improve your nutrition and so much more. We'd like to welcome you to Healthstyles FYI, the podcast by Balanced Healthstyles. Today, we're talking about kindness, and we have a special guest whose favorite subject is kindness.
We're talking with Lisa Kiersky Schreiber, Master Nutrition Coach, Functional Aging Specialist, Mint Certified in Motivational Interviewing, and author of the Meal Deal book. She has written many articles on the subject of kindness. Kindness is the most beautiful language, fixed versus growth mindset, 3 tools to develop a growth mindset, and what holds us back from hosting people in our homes.
She also has talked about many topics like stress, resilience, peace, contentment, tame that crazy inner critic, your workout routines, healthy habits, motivation, and her specialty, meal planning. Lisa uses behavior change techniques to guide people through actionable, yet very doable healthy habits so that you can become a healthier eater for, life. So, Lisa, let's just introduce you here with kind of a fun and quirky question. If you could sit next to anybody on a plane, who would you choose?
Well, I'm going to sound like a bit of a dork, but I have wanted to be a writer my entire life, so words really mean things to me. And I think the master of the craft of using words is Aaron Sorkin. He wrote The West Wing, The Newsroom. He's done a ton of movies, and I respect him, admire him, and anytime I see him in an interview, he just seems so fascinating to me that I just think it would be such a cool conversation to have on an airplane. I would love to sit next to Aaron Sorkin.
Well, that's a name I've never heard before, so I like that. But I have watched the TV show The West Wing, so I'm familiar with him, and I didn't even know that I was familiar.
You've probably seen some of his movies too. I think he did The American President. Was that the one he wrote? Yeah, I bet you've seen some of his movies too.
Yeah, he's somebody who's familiar that I didn't even know. So I love when we ask these questions because we can find out things. You know, there's always something every day. I think I find out something new. And you, as listeners today, you're really going to find out how kindness can help you create healthy habits. And I know, Lisa, when we asked to interview you and you said, "Oh, what's the topic?" And we said kindness, you said, "Well, this is my favorite subject." Can you tell us a little bit of why kindness is your favorite subject?
Honestly, if there was one thing I would love to start, it would be a kindness revolution, because I believe kindness can change the world if people actually did it. Because when you see a kind act or somebody responding to you because you've been kind to them, it humanizes people, which is a big deal. We have so much divisiveness in this country and this world right now that bringing people together is what we really need to do. And just showing kindness, I truly believe, is one way to do that. So it's really one of my favorite subjects.
So we're going to find out how kindness can help you with your healthy habits. I'd like to say a little bit too of how I got to know Lisa. And Heather, I don't know if you have some memories of how you got to know Lisa. I know recipes, you know, when you think of healthy habits, recipes are always something, well, they generally always come up. So if I'm doing healthy habits, that means I want to eat better. So then I need to have better recipes. And I had put out in a Facebook group that Lisa and I are members of, Heather too, got any fall recipes, any cool recipes? And all of a sudden I got a plethora of recipes. But Lisa's recipe really stood out to me because it was taking squash and turning it into French fries. I make this every year for fall. And I know what was so cool about it is when Lisa gave me the recipe, she said, "Let me know when you make it," or she said something like that. And I went, oh, she gave me an actionable step to say, okay, here, I gave you the recipe. Now let me know when you make it. It took me a little bit to make it, but then I did get a hold of her and said, I did make this recipe. So that's the type of coach that she is, that she'll give you cool tips like, French fry, these cool French fries. I think it even was with squash. Do you remember squash at all,
I think
Lisa?
it was butternut squash sriracha fries. Oh, the flavor combination is amazing.
Well, I think actually it was a squash I hadn't heard of before, which maybe is a variation of a butternut. Do you at all?
Was it kobacha?
Yes, yes.
Ah.
It was a really neat name. And yeah, I remember going to the store and going, I gotta find this squash. Do you carry it? And they looked at me like, yeah, we carry it every year, but I had never paid attention to squash names. So to me, it was really unique.
It's so fun to find out about new things.
Yeah, I think you could probably do that with pretty much any squash.
Yeah, like Heather had said, butternut squash. I know I have tried it. I've even tried it with acorn squash. I've tried it with quite a number of things. Some things work out better than others. It depends on, really, what I found is it depends on when I buy the squash and if I have a good knife to cut the squash too. Those are my variables. But Heather, do you remember how you met Lisa?
I'm trying to think if we were in a PN certification course together, or if it was maybe the book club Facebook group. I think it might have been book club though, that we first really connected. But then at some point after we met, it dawned on me that she lives what I consider my old stomping grounds, right? Where I bought my first house when I lived in downtown Atlanta, was very close to where Lisa lives now. So I was just like, oh yes, I remember all these things you're talking about. And we just kind of, good memories.
Yeah, we bonded over that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sad that you left.
Sometimes I'm sad that I left, but it's nice when you look back and you're like, oh, if I hadn't, then I wouldn't have developed all of these, experiences and am who I am now. So I cherish those years though.
Well, Lisa, is there anything that we left out about your background? Like, how did you get to where you are now? Is there anything you'd like to share before we get into some of the questions specifically about kindness?
It's kind of a long story, but I can try to shorten it. I kind of yo-yo dieted my whole life, but then I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 28. And I talked to people who were dealing with their flare-ups, using nutrition to deal with their flare-ups. So I did a deep dive into nutrition and how it can impact our health. And that was just sort of the game changer for me. I learned about how ultra processed foods can be inflammatory. And so I managed to get my Crohn's completely under control. I went into remission, which is really unheard of a lot of the time in Crohn's disease. And so I was like, I need to dedicate my life to this because I feel so good after I had felt so bad for so long. And I was like, I need to tell other people about this. What can I do? Short of becoming a doctor or a registered dietitian. So I found precision nutrition, and then one thing led to another, and then that led to the book, and everything just kind of flowed from there.
Very interesting. It always seems that when we can take our own experiences, we have a different sort of kindness for what it means to go through something and need to change it. And I think that might be a really great lead into what does kindness even mean to you? Like, how would you define that?
I would say, to me, the essence of kindness is showing someone that, and yourself included, but showing someone that they are seen and heard and valued and respected and worthy, regardless of whether we agree with them or even like them. Kindness can entail doing something nice for someone or saying something nice to someone without any expectation of reciprocation in return. And the biggest thing is that I think it recognizes someone's humanity. And I really do think that it actually starts with being kind to yourself.
You had said one word and I thought, oh, I just have to say, I don't know why I love it, but you said the word humanity, and even cutting it short, the word human. To me, when I just hear that word, all of a sudden it makes me sigh. It makes me feel kind. It brings about, I think, what you're trying to display with the definition of kindness. In one word, to be human to me, I equal kindness. So I don't know if you want, I know I cut you off on your kindness, but if there's more to add about your definition of kindness.
No, I mean, I think I was going to say one of the major benefits of being kind is that to other people is that it can bring connection, which I think so many of us are craving, right? Because you're actually focusing on someone else. You're showing them that you see them and that you value them. And hopefully that brings about the same intention for them. And that creates a connection between you, because when you're kind to someone, I think people kind of let their guard down or their protective barrier down when they're treated with kindness. And when their guard is down and they're more comfortable being vulnerable, that's when connection can happen.
Yeah, for sure. The word that jumped out at me was kindness to yourself. And that coming first, because you really can't give from an empty cup, and you really can't impact anyone else or control anything else besides yourself. And that's where you start, right? And then once you're different, it kind of radiates out and it has a ripple effect on the people around you. Whereas if you're not kind to yourself, it's going to be a lot more challenging to be kind to other people. Not impossible, I wouldn't say, but it makes it all work together.
Is kindness to yourself, taking that thought, thinking first, let's put ourselves priority, you know, that mask, put the airline mask on. So if we take kindness for ourselves, is it easy to be kind to ourselves?
No, it's really difficult, which may be why it's so hard for some people to be kind, automatically be kind to other people, because it's not a natural instinct. I think we tend towards, and I'm not sure why this is, it's just human nature. We tend towards beating ourselves up for everything. I'm not enough. I didn't do that perfectly. You know, so no, I think you're right, Heather. I think you're exactly right. It starts with being kind to ourselves, but it is not an easy task.
You have written several times, and you say, be the kind one. What do you mean by that?
I think to me that means take the initiative to put kindness into the world without expecting to get it back. Don't expect it to be returned. Don't worry if someone else isn't starting with kindness. You have no idea what kind of day they're having or what kind of life they're living. Do it because it feels good to you. Because I think only good can come from being the one who takes the initiative to be kind.
You just gave me goosebumps, because I was thinking, you know, I saw the picture of being kind to somebody else, but what if we took the initiative to be kind to ourselves? If we felt like being angry with ourselves, or we felt like you said, calling ourselves the crazy names, what would it be like if we could shift what we do and what we say to ourselves to be the kind one to ourselves also? And that's when all of a sudden I got goosebumps when you were talking, because I mean, I have to be honest, I'm coming back from being away from work for a while, getting back into work, and it's hard for me to get everything together. And I'm saying those crazy things to myself. I'm definitely not saying, oh, it's okay, you know, just take your time. I'm saying, like, get with the program, woman. What's your problem?
And so what could you say to yourself that would sound more kind? If somebody were talking to you and saying what you just said to yourself, Michelle, it's okay. How could you make that shift in your brain?
Because it's true, you know, even I would piggyback off of what you just said. It's okay. To me, it's okay can have so much meaning, because it deflates what's going on. So if I could just tell myself and believe it to be true, to say, it's okay to take more time. It's okay to be flustered after a week of not working. I really think could I just say that's one word, okay? Yeah, or two letters, you know? Yeah.
That's brilliant. I love it. I think a lot of it is so much repetition, right? Like we have to remind ourselves to use those techniques, because we so easily forget them. To remind ourselves to say it's okay, or to remind ourselves to say, I messed up, I'll start over, whatever. it doesn't feel right, or it doesn't feel good in the beginning. And then eventually it just becomes, the repetition of it, I think, becomes, it gets you there faster, if that makes sense. It gets you to that space faster. So when you do, you're not living up to whatever expectation you think you're supposed to be living up to. You can more easily just say, oh, all right, whatever. I'm doing my best. It'll be fine. I'll manage. I'll figure it out.
So kindness is actually a habit, is what you're saying.
Yes, I think I am. Nice job.
I was about to talk about, it sounded like kindness is a habit, and it's more like it's based on that negativity bias that you were saying is just kind of like a human thing, that's a survival mechanism that's really ingrained, is to see more easily recognize things that are like wrong or out of place, because that's danger, right? When you have to break that habit and that customary like approach, that's where you're like breaking the habit of that negativity bias. And it's not easy by practicing a kind act or a kind word to yourself, or a kindness practice, so that you can develop that habit and let the habit of negativity bias and all those crazy voices in the head, like that just kind of atrophies, maybe because you're not paying as much attention to it while you're focusing on the actions of kindness until the balance tips. And then you just, it's not fake it till you make it. It's like you're curating your thoughts to tip the balance.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, I love the idea of kindness as a habit. It's like all these little habits that you do them long enough, they're not even habits anymore. They're just a way of life, right? Which is, I think, what happened with me in kindness. I don't think of myself as being kind or not kind, but I do think of myself as being kind, I guess, actually, because I just don't think about it. It's just a natural thing. I've done it for so long, I don't even think about it. It's kind of like meal planning for me. I've been meal planning for so many years. I don't even think about how other people don't do it. It's just a part of my repertoire, right?
That's kind of it. Oh, I was going to say, that's kind of an interesting idea. Are there any other words that you might say instead of kindness? Any synonyms or other words that you use to describe kindness now that it's more of like the way things are?
Yeah, I think I would probably say thoughtfulness, right? Because you're thinking about it. That's a big one. So it's thoughtful. It's decency, humanity, unselfishness, affection, courtesy, niceness, caring. I think all those words could be used as a sort of synonyms for kindness.
Would I be incorrect if I was thinking to, like, when I was listening to you describe kindness, I was thinking about respect, and I was also thinking about self-compassion. Would those fall into kindness too?
Absolutely. And I think respect is a massive one, not just for respecting ourselves more than anything, but respecting other people. I definitely think respect is one of the biggest ways to describe it.
I think having a lot of different kinds of words, they just land different with people, and it would help. Someone might resonate more with, oh, that's something I'm going to do, to develop, to practice. If kindness maybe is too like fluffy, or they really can't pin it down what it means, what do I do? Having just a wide variety of different kind of descriptive words, and having that cluster, and you get a feeling of what it's like. I think that's extremely useful for people who are at the beginning of starting with self-kindness, or in whatever capacity, purposefully putting kindness out into the world.
Absolutely, because we all learn so differently, right? I mean, you're right. You have a different word that really resonates with you, and maybe that helps you click that mindness switch in your brain a little more easily.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the word like meditation. And I know, Lisa, you said that you love words and wordsmith. Well, sometimes words can create, like we were talking about, that negativity bias, that maybe they just don't resonate. And I know, like the word meditation, a lot of people don't realize that they actually do some form of meditation in their life. They just don't want to call it that word meditation. So if you're listening right now and you actually practice some form of kindness, but you think, I don't want to call it kindness, use any of these other words. That would be great. Or just let us know, what are some words you use to describe kindness? So I'm really curious, Lisa, how does kindness benefit your health?
Wow, there are probably so many ways. First of all, it's a feel good. It's a feel good thing. It actually releases oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, the feel good chemicals. So it can feel really good to be kind to yourself, really, but to other people for sure. I mean, there's this physiological response when you're kind to somebody else. But I also think we talked a little bit about being kind to yourself in terms of if you mess up or you're trying to form habits, you're starting these new things. Being kind to yourself when you're starting these new things is everything. It keeps you going, because if you're not kind to yourself and you're beating yourself up, chances are you're just going to go right back to what you were doing before, because you're going to face obstacles all the time. That's just life. And if you can figure out how to treat yourself with kindness and respect and dignity, it will help you keep going.
A couple of examples came to mind when you were talking. I know for myself, and I've talked many times about my knees, and let me tell you, climbing upstairs, I don't look pretty when I climb upstairs. And there was a time, and you heard, what did I just say? I don't look pretty when I'm climbing up the stairs. You know, when you become aware of that language, and was that kind language that I just used? I was expressing so you could get an image of what it was like when I go up the stairs, but I have talked to myself and told myself to be kind, to go, this is where I am, and this is how I walk up the stairs. And like we said earlier, I say, it's okay. You know, I'm doing the best I can. This is my way to do it. And I think it's great. You know, those type of things. I'm thinking too, when I see somebody, let's say, like, I'm just getting back from being gone for a while. So we stayed in many hotels. We used the elevator, and sometimes people would be really slow getting into that elevator. And then I would miss getting in because they couldn't get their act together. Did you hear all those negative words that I just said there? To be kind, to go, well, I wonder what kind of fun's going on in their life. They must be really excited to get where they're going, you know. And I did notice that I did shift my perspective a lot. And it is amazing how 20 years ago, I would have been upset and full of anxiety out of both of the examples I gave, being upset with other people, like, why can't they get their act together? Why can't I get my act together? But practicing kindness, practicing a way to see the world with empathy and be able to put myself in other people's shoes, and even in my own shoes, like as my own best friend, you know, to look outside of myself and see myself as my own best friend. It has totally changed. I can say I don't have a lot of anxiety because I can immediately push it aside and see things for, would we call it the bright spots? Would that be part of being kind too, is to being able to see the good in things?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I think so. Heather, what do you think? I definitely think so, but what do you think?
Being able to see the good in things and getting that silver lining, it does definitely set a tone. Like if that's always, you know, something bad happens and you have taught yourself to have a reaction, you know, that's, well, it might be bad, but at least there's this. It can soften it. I think it's a good technique. I don't think it's the same as kindness, but they certainly go hand in hand.
And I love what you said about seeing it from the perspective of like your best friend. Would your best friend ever say to you, God, Michelle, your knees, they're terrible. I don't, you know, you look horrible.
I can't even believe how you walk up the stairs.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say that.
They would feel for you. They would be like, oh, I'm sorry you're going through that. It really sucks. And I hope it gets better. Or, you know, they wouldn't even probably notice it, quite honestly. But if anything, they would feel compassion for you.
So there's another word on compassion. We maybe hit on it a little bit when you were describing words, but how do we do this? How do we go about, or can I just say it? Let's talk about, let me pick one subject. How can you be kind about your body image? Or how can you be kind about your eating habits? Are there ways? Those are two like really hot topics that I think all of us as humans go through. We criticize our body image. We criticize what we're eating. And let me give you an example of it. As a health coach, there was a time when I would go to the grocery store and I would think everybody is judging what I'm putting in my cart because of what I do. They have extra spyggy eyes wondering what did I just put Oreos and ice cream in my cart and are they going to judge me for it?
Yeah, that's a big one. I did that for a little, I definitely did that for a while too. When I first got my nutrition certification, if I would buy anything, that wasn't perfect, I felt kind of guilty about it. But I think you bring up a good point. And one of the things is we can't do this 100% of the time. It's just not possible. I mean, we are human. And so once we accept that, I think that gives us a lot of grace to say, okay, it wasn't the perfect day. I'm not in the mood. I really need my Oreos. Forget it. I'm not going to beat myself up over this anymore. But again, it is a habit. It is a lot of practice. And you have to be I think self-awareness is probably the biggest place to start. Because if you're not noticing those voices in your head and recognizing what they're saying to you, you can't start to shift it. So the first place I would almost always start with anything is self-awareness. What are you doing? What are you saying to yourself? What are you thinking about other people? I do believe self-awareness is the biggest place to start.
I think that example is so powerful because you're saying, oh, I'm judging myself because of the food I eat. And then being kind to myself is saying, it's okay to not be 100%. When you have that kindness, it allows you to even conceptualize the idea that it doesn't even take 100%. Mm-hmm. That your regular practice maybe only has to be 80% or 85% if you're feeling especially on it that day. You know what I mean? And that it leaves room for the times that are going to be in the bottom 10%. And that's actually part of the 100%. You don't have to be 100% all the time, all the way on this end. The whole spectrum is the 100%. And when you've allowed yourself to be like, I don't have to be that, then you can say, oh, you know what? It doesn't even take that to get the goals of, being a healthier person, being a happier person.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that is, you're right. You're the only one who gets to decide how often you want to be spot on. Like if it's 80% of the time, and then the 20% of the time you can say, I'm eating the Oreos, or I'm just not going to worry about this. I'm not even going to think about this anymore. And it's just very freeing. I have to say it's very freeing when you're eating something and you're actually enjoying it just for the sheer enjoyment of eating it. And you're not worried about labeling it good or bad or whatever, you think it is. That's definitely part of kindness. I think that's being kind to yourself and saying, I should be enjoying this, not beating myself up over eating this because I don't do it all the time.
So that's a way that kindness, when it comes to your eating habits, can really benefit you instead of stressing you out. I can see how, we've all had clients who say, I need to lose 20 pounds by next month because I have a wedding I'm going to, or whatever it is. And so they want to white knuckle it through. They're totally not kind to themselves. And they might not even last 2 weeks until all of a sudden, they feel like they blew it. But kindness does what for that person?
It humanizes them in their own brain. It says, wow, I'm human. I'm struggling because this is something. It normalizes, I guess, actually is an even better word than humanizes in this respect. It normalizes the behavior. This is normal behavior. I'm trying to do something that is extremely difficult. Few people could do this perfectly. Nobody can do this perfectly, probably, but it just normalizes the behavior. And once you normalize it, I think that makes you feel less pressure to get it perfect.
Do you think that Oh, sorry, Heather.
I was going to add on, if I may. I
Yeah.
think it even also allows, when you can have whatever treat foods, not perfect healthy foods, if you can have them whenever you want, then it makes room for you to want the healthy foods instead of resent. If you could have anything you want and you want to eat healthy, that feels so much better. And it releases any kind of resentment of have to, of should. And I think when that clicked for me, everything was different about the voices in my head, judging and comparing the food, the amount of workouts, the whatever else is supposed to be going on. I could do anything I want. And right now, what I want is to have this, big plate of vegetables.
Well, and I think that goes to an article that I just remember that Lisa wrote to. She wrote an article about coulds and shoulds,
I
and all of
know.
that relates to kindness. When we should ourselves, are we really being kind to ourselves? But when we open ourselves up to the possibility of the coulds, that feels a lot like there's not a burden on our shoulders. There's nobody being that drill sergeant and pointing the fingers and telling you what to do. There's more autonomy to it. And I don't know. I am not motivated by somebody telling me what to do. I'm motivated by seeing somebody accomplish something. So I might want to do it too, but I want to creatively do it in my own way. Don't tell me how to exactly do it the same way that you did.
Yeah, should is a big thing for me. I have a plaque on my desk that says "Don't should" on me. and you will almost never, probably never catch me shoulding on somebody else, because I don't like it when somebody's like, you should do this, you should do that, you should eat this, you should eat that. I'm like, yeah, you really think I'm going to listen to you?
Yeah. I think, I shut down. I really, as a coach, there's still times where I know that I say should, but when I hear people say should, I literally shut down. I think I turn the volume down in my ears, and it's also another word that I know that I'll shut down with. You need to. When people say that, to me is so much like should, and I would say that's the opposite of kindness.
Yeah, and we do it to ourselves so much, right? Like, I should do this, I should do that, but we don't think about that word. There's so much guilt associated with that word. When you don't do something that you think you should do, what about finding another way to do it, or figuring out that a way that works for you to help you accomplish whatever goal you might be working towards, right? Wouldn't that feel a little less icky than telling yourself I should do this? Because there's only guilt associated with that word when you use it, I think.
Well, and then talk about kindness to other people. I know, I've talked about my knees. So I got this recumbent bike that I actually ride outside. It's called a tadpole bike, where it's down low, and I ride it all over town. People were being kind to me, and it felt so good. Like, there is a certain house that I love to drive by, because if this lady is by, and literally I am sad when she's not standing outside. She will have her coffee in the morning. I'd be riding my bike by, and she'll go, "You go, girl." That to me was super kind. Just those words like motivated me to go, oh yeah, I'm going to go another 20 minutes and maybe I'll drive by her house again so she can say something more to me. The impact, Lisa, you said that words matter. Those words matter so much to me, because I hadn't felt validated. I felt like, oh, I have to ride this recumbent bike. I don't know about this. And then I have somebody saying, you go, girl. All of a sudden pride takes over, rather than, oh, are people looking at me like, what's her disability?
And I think you hit on it. It's called intrinsic motivation, right? Once you start feeling intrinsic motivation, you are motivating yourself to do something. Her words triggered something in your brain that made you excited and wanting to keep going, right? Like, they maybe weren't there a few minutes ago, and then she said something and you were like, oh my God, I just want to do this because it feels great, not because I'm out here and I should do it or I have to do it. It's because I remember it feels good. That's why I'm doing this. Or, I'm trying to reach this goal and that's why I'm doing this. And the intrinsic motivation kicks in. So you're not doing it for any other reason than yourself. You want to do it because it feels good.
And that's where kindness to other people, I think, matters too. It really, I mean, if we can practice that kindness on ourselves, and then we can practice the kindness to other people, you don't know the power that you may have in that person's life, how you could have changed it. I don't know, Lisa, do you have any stories about kindness at all that you want to share before we wrap this up?
Well, in the blog post I wrote about kindness, I talked about, and I went to the store yesterday, the farmer's market yesterday, where everybody speaks. They're all from Ethiopia, most of them, and they speak Amharic. And every time I go in now, I've learned enough, not much, but enough to be able to say, hello, how are you? Thank you. Have a good day, and all that stuff. And you can see, like yesterday, I was talking to this guy, and he was, I'm just another customer to him. And I was like, Salam, Damane, which means how are you? And he looks at me and he's just like, you speak Amharic? And I'm like, no, but I'm trying to learn. He's like, where did you learn? I'm like, I'm learning here. I'd like for you to teach me a new word. So his demeanor just went from, you're just another customer, to thank you for making my day a little bit brighter. Right. And it was that simple. I didn't have to give him money. I didn't have to do anything. It was trying to communicate with him in his language, so he felt a little less lonely, or he felt like somebody was actually paying attention to him.
That actually brings some tears to my eyes, because kindness is so easy to give, especially something like that. It doesn't cost you anything, and the impact it can make. I mean, there's a saying, and I can't think of the quote right now, but well, I'll just say the opposite of sticks and stones can't break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think that is so, so wrong, because words can change your life, and using kind words and kinding act, it's just unspeakable. It's maybe even unfathomable, the change that you can actually make by using kindness.
And the truth is, it never hurts. You are never going to harm anyone by being kind. And if they don't notice it, then whatever they're going through is what they have to deal with. It's not your thing to take on, but it is never going to be harmful, right?
100%.
Thank you, Lisa, for such an interesting conversation and just really heartening concepts that people can start to apply right away. I'm going to make sure that in the comments or the show notes, wherever you're listening to this podcast, that we're going to have links to all the articles that we've mentioned, as well as Lisa's coaching profile page on Balanced Healthstyles. So join us again on the next segment, where you're going to discover how to make meaningful and lasting changes to nearly every aspect of your life.